Welcome to Faith in 5, a weekly video devotional designed to discuss practical spiritual concepts in 5 minutes or less. I'm your host, Mark Vandellen. So my wife and I fight a lot about one thing, and it's not what you're thinking. We fight a ton about golf. And I know that may seem trivial, but honestly, in my married life, it's been like the most polarizing conversation we've had. I can never play enough golf, and she thinks that any golf is too much golf. And so I guess my whole life, I've been trying to tell her why she should like golf. And honestly, every time we bump into somebody who likes golf as well, they try to convince her that she should also like golf. And they spend all this time telling her all the reasons that she should like it. But she's already made up her mind and just doesn't like it. And so a couple years ago, I went and met with a golf pro friend of mine because I knew that he and his wife played golf together. And so I wanted to, I guess, get golf counseling. I don't know. So we sat down and I said, how do you do it, man? Like, I've seen you play golf with your wife. I would love to have that in my life. He said, well, it didn't always be this way. It wasn't always like this. We used to fight about golf a lot. And what I found out is I spent so much time trying to tell her why she should like what I like that I kind of didn't take her into account at all. And so I realized, you know what, leave the clubs in the car, invite her out to the course, and let's just go watch a sunset. And so he said he did that a couple of times. And then they started kind of walking the course. And after a while, they'd drive around. And she just really started to enjoy being on the course and around the course. And it turned from something that took him away from her to something they could do together. And at this point, they've never even hit a golf ball together. And he said, slowly, I'd bring a club onto the course and I'd chip balls around. And he said, I remember one day she said, do you mind if I hit one? And so it was a slow process of inviting her in and inviting her in. And then he said, what we still do to this day is when we play golf together, I give her the advantage. And now, if I played golf with this buddy of mine too, I would hope that he'd give me the same advantage. And so what he does is his wife will get to hit the ball. And then when they get up to the ball, she gets to pick it up and throw it. And that still is one stroke. And he said she has a blast playing golf with me. And she almost beats me from time to time with this hit and throw technique. And he said something to me that was so clear and evident. He said, all I did is I made golf accessible to her. And that got me thinking about our faith. Because I think in our faith, we try to do so much telling other people what they should do or what they shouldn't do when it comes to God and how they live their lives, that we don't make God accessible to other people. We spend so much time trying to coax them into loving something that we love, but we never make it accessible. And so I started thinking, what would it look like if we invited people into our lives onto the course, so to speak, and we started by having dinner together, or we just went and walked the course, right? We lived this journey together. What would happen if we started to think that way differently? Actually, Paul talks about this in 1 Corinthians. In 1 Corinthians 9:19 through 23, Paul essentially says, I became all things to all people. He says, when I was with the religious, I was more religious. When I was with the non-religious, I was less religious. When I was with people who were super moral, I talked a lot about morals. And when I was with people who were immoral, I didn't necessarily become immoral, but I didn't talk a whole lot about morals. The Message version records him as saying, I have become almost every type of servant there is. He said, because I wanted to win people towards my God. He said, I wanted to do more than just talk about my faith. I wanted to be in on it. So that caused me to think again about my friends who don't know God. What would it look like if I had them on the course? And I guess one of the things that I notice is we expect people who don't know God to act as if they know God. Right? We expect them to have their lives all cleaned up and to use language that we use. But would it be so bad if we invited them to the course and they got to pick up the ball and throw it? What if we expected them to need a little bit of an advantage? What if we expected them to need a little bit of grace and we gave them that room to grow? Who in your life do you need to invite onto the course with you? And how would your approach change if you decided to invite them into something you love, instead of just tell them all the things about what you love. Maybe if you make it accessible, they'll come join you. Thanks for tuning in. If you want to follow us each week, click here to subscribe. And if you want to take it a little bit further, click here for discussion materials.